Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have a treat for you. I don't know why the heck I just introduced this episode like that, but we're going to rock and roll with it. My name is Alex, if we have not met. I am the host of this podcast, and I'm very excited to be sharing this unique conversation because I have a special guest on the podcast today. He is the one and only Dr. Luke Werth.
Freshly minted.
Luke, how does that feel to have the word doctor in front of you?
Well, seeing as I've been a doctor for about 20 days, it's weird, but it means a lot.
I love when I first texted you that, I don't even know if you remember this, I said Dr. Werth or something like that. You said, same me, different title, or something like that. You're like, haven't really changed much. But the reason we are on this conversation, or the reason we're having this conversation, Luke, is because you just graduated chiropractic school, and you are now a licensed chiropractor, which I think is not just an inspiring field, but it's inspiring what you've done over the past 3 years and just what was it, 2, 3, 4 years? 3
2.5.
years? 2.5
or,
years?
sorry, excuse me, 3.5.
3.5 years that you dedicated to just diving into the field of chiropractic and pain and health and longevity and biomechanics and physiology and biopsychosocial theories of health that we're all going to get into this conversation today. So before we do that, Dr. Luke Werth, for people who are new to you, they're like, wait, who is this guy? Like, how is he on this conversation? How is he on this podcast? How is Alex even talking to him? Give us a quick, I say, Instagram snapshot of who you are, and then how do we know each other? How do our lives intersect?
All right. So if it's Instagram, I got to use like 8 words.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, follower of Christ, chiropractor, heavy workout enthusiast, husband, father, done.
You did my job for me. There you go.
Sorry.
Perfect.
Yeah, take it over.
So I met Alex in college, and I guess it was through people, but then
mutual friends.
Yeah, mutual friends, and then we just never stopped hanging out and talking.
It's a great way to put it. That was back in 2014.
That was way back in 2014.
8 years.
That's right.
8 years ago.
Yeah, that is 8. It's 2022.
Yeah.
And then you were the best man at my wedding. And your wife was our maid of honor as well. Hannah's maid. Hannah. I have a wife named Hannah, and Alex has a wife named Hannah.
That's right.
So let's all be clear on that.
That's right.
We're not married to the same Hannah. That'd be tough.
It'd be hard. No, you know what? I frequently forget that, but that is a special thing that not many people can say, that both me and my Hannah were the special people in your guys' wedding, which that was phenomenal. So you're married. You are actually a fresh father.
Less fresh than chiropractor, but still a fresh father.
That's true. Update us on that.
My daughter, Eloise, was born a little bit over 3 months ago.
Yep.
And so now we are diving headlong into this parenting thing, and it's been awesome.
So Luke, where did you go to school?
Liberty University.
Liberty University.
The one and only.
And you got your bachelor's in?
Exercise science.
And then you applied to where chiropractic school?
Logan University over in St. Louis, Missouri.
So you were in St. Louis for just less than 4 years, and you just graduated there, and now you are done. You got your diploma, you have your DR, and now you are heading off into the clinical world.
I am.
Right?
Yep. Starting here in a little bit under a month.
So Luke, really quick before we dive into that part of your life, you also really like to work out as well. Mm-hmm. Tell us just about that side, your athletic side, your sport history, like what do you do now for workouts, all that stuff.
Sure, yeah. I was a pretty avid indoor sport athlete when I grew up in Wisconsin. I specifically say indoor because I hated the outdoor cold sports. I did play summer baseball for a while, but then when school was doing its thing, I was only going to play the indoor sports. It was freezing cold. Otherwise, outside. But once I got to college, I played 2 years of volleyball at Liberty, and then was convinced otherwise, and so I stepped away, and I was like, hey, what am I going to do to work out? And Alex was right there in my ear and said, come to the gym with me, man. I got this cool workout style called CrossFit that I do.
Because you didn't do CrossFit before that.
No, we did just
General sport-specific training.
Yes. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, sure, let's do that. And then, 2 hours later, I was dead on the ground. Like, what in the world did you just do to my body? Sore for like 2 weeks.
Do you remember what that workout was?
Wall balls. No, like an insane amount of wall balls.
It was like I think 400 total
Yeah,
balls. Because it was like 200 and then 200
yes,
or something like
partner
that.
workout. And then we did we split 100 pull-ups.
Strict pull-ups.
Because I didn't know how to do the kipping pull-ups.
Yeah, we're like, let's just go strict.
Yeah.
But there was one other movement in there. I forget.
There was.
Was it burpees or something?
I don't know.
I forget, but I remember wall balls and strict pull-ups.
Oh my gosh, my biceps are still sore just thinking about the strict pull-ups.
That was probably 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Wow. Yeah, that makes me feel old.
It's funny, many people have that first CrossFit experience because I will say that this was in college, and I invited many people, hey, just come work out with us, But I wasn't going to modify. I was like, let's do our crazy workouts, and if you survive, you survive. I've definitely gotten much wiser since then. I don't advise that anymore, but it probably took us like 40 minutes to get through that partner workout.
Yeah, you were very, very patient with me. Let's just say that much.
I think I ended up doing I would do like a set of like 30 wall balls. You would do 10.
Do 10
I would
or
do
15.
like 30 more, whatever that was.
That's still what it's like. We just did that yesterday. Come on, let's be serious.
Some things never change.
Yep.
Anyways, Luke, so you are very well versed in just this whole field of health. And I think what's cool about this conversation, and not only this conversation, but our friendship, we've pretty much stayed in touch and talked over the past 8 years, just really about what we think living a healthy life looks like, right?
Yeah.
And one thing that we've had many conversations about is that it is not just siloed in one area, right? That we have a body, mind, and soul, body, soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it, that we have different areas of us. The 5 different areas that I like to talk about are physical, mental, emotional, relational, and spiritual. And that you, going through your very clinical, scientific, just doctoral studies, have found that that is true, that a lot of just not the new movement and wave, but just when you want to see a practitioner, that if they are not at least considering or bringing into the conversation those other areas, then you might want to rethink some things.
Yeah.
Talk to us about just the broad stroke of chiropractic, just your experience with that and just kind of the direction it's taking with just overall health.
Yeah, totally. So in the last couple decades, I think there's a paper that came out in like 82. I guess that's puts us at 4 decades. That really started discussing just in the clinical world is considered the biopsychosocial model. Which, like you said, is not just a single siloed approach of let's just look at the biomechanics and biology of this person. We're going to look at biological, psychological, and social determinants of health. And from that paper in the early 80s or so, it's really been kind of slow in coming on, but within the last 10 years especially, there's been a ton of literature produced out there about what it means to look at somebody and see the world around them as they talk to you, rather than putting them just simply through a movement screen or pushing on different structures in the body and saying this is exactly what's causing your pain.
Right.
But really, you're looking at them and looking at what are the painful things in your life that are causing stress upon you,
right.
Whether it be physical or mental or emotional or spiritual, and then appreciating that with the person and getting them in the right hands if they don't belong in your office anymore. And there's a lot of chiropractors who are now seeing this in the same way physical therapists are and DOs and MDs. And embracing it. It's a really cool movement because it really makes it less about just some procedure that you can offer them, but really about serving them and treating them as a whole person rather than just a patient that you can hand a pill to and solve all their problems.
I think you said a very interesting and enlightening point as far as just overall stressors on the body and in just relation to pain, because many things we do are stressors on the body. Right. I mean, let's just take a simple workout that is stressing the body, whether it's at a neuroendocrine level, whether that's at a physiological level, maybe some of the stressors we have at home, at work, that there's constantly stressing our body. But that's what builds resiliency and robustness in our physiology, because the harder you stress, and then if you couple it with recovery, right, proper nutrition, sleep, all that stuff, then you're going to build your body more resilient, more robust, all that stuff. But there comes a point that if we are stressing our bodies improperly, then this thing called pain comes in, right? Which is why a lot of people will see a chiropractor, a physical therapist, all that stuff, because many people don't want to live in pain.
Yeah.
Luke, just from your, studies and experience and all the stuff, what is pain, and why do people seek to avoid it? What is it? What are the signals in the body saying? How can you help us understand pain?
Yeah. Before I answer that question, I'll actually add one thing to what you said. You said that with stress, a chronic or dysfunctional stress that is on you, whether it be physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever, pain isn't the only thing. It could be IBS, or it could be random stomach aches, or even visual changes and things.
Sure.
Your experience of the world changes with stress.
Interesting.
And it's really, really awesome. And we're just at the beginning of understanding this whole iceberg. Basically, we see the top, and we're seeing there's a little bit underneath the water, but we don't know how deep we're really going in it. But pain itself, there's insult to body, so that's nociceptive pain. There's the type that is it's a signal to us saying, hey, we're in peril and we need to get out of it. There's that type of pain, which is usually pretty good. But then there's also a ruminating pain, a pain that isn't actually a sensory stimulus, but it's something that is in our limbic system and inside of our central nervous system that's interpreting things coming from the outside world that shouldn't be painful as painful. And it's really
interesting.
It could be emotional. It could be solely emotional. It could be solely biological. It could be solely psychological. But in most cases, it's all three of those.
Interesting. Do you have a random example or a common example that?
Yeah. Well, back pain. That's
okay.
Yeah, back pain itself is much more than just a
tight hamstrings, right?
Yes, exactly. I wish it was tight hamstrings. It'd make it so much easier.
You got to stretch your hamstrings, your back pain will go away, right?
Oh, it'd be amazing if it was that easy.
Yeah, that's a great point.
But most people, because back pain's the leading cause of disability worldwide.
Yeah.
There's so many things that are factoring into that, and as a provider of healthcare, and in particular spinal care, chiropractors, PTs, and MDs and DOs, we all have to be really aware of this whole person that's sitting in front of us, and not just one thing that we could offer them. I guess I could probably say that better. One thing that I'll use an illustration. How about this?
Yeah.
If you are a spinal surgeon and everything to you is something that you can cut out, then that's the way that you're going to think.
Right.
Right. And so if you have a hammer, if the only tool you have is a hammer, and everything you look at is a nail, and if that's your approach to people, you're not going to embrace all of them and then help them out, because there's a lot of failed back surgery out there.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
So I guess I would classify back pain as an injury, but how do just injuries in general? Because let's talk about the sport of CrossFit, or the sport of working out, something that we regularly do. But let's say it's long distance running, or even yoga, or rock climbing, or extreme sports, whatever that is. If someone's being active, then odds are you're going to go through some tweaks, some different, you have a tight here or whatever here, but let's say that an actual injury occurs. Let's say someone sprains their ankle and they have a second-degree sprain with their ankle. Talk to us about some of the things that are going on in the body as far as what you're thinking through as far as recovery, pain. What are some of the indicators that you're looking for as far as progress? Just what's going through your mind when you are thinking through or even providing for someone with an injury?
Yeah. So when someone has an acute injury, the natural course is always to regress to where they were prior to the injury, which is a good thing. And so it's called regression to the mean. And the mean is that most people who are walking around do not have ankle sprains.
That's a good point.
And so, I mean, if they did, that'd be good for my office maybe, but not for everybody else's lives. But that's amazing. That's because our bodies are really intelligent, and so we have our nervous system, we have our endocrine system, we have our immune system that are going to that place, and that's the best way I could probably put it, and rehabbing it without even going to physical therapy for it. And that's amazing. But what I can come in at is I can turn the volume down on pain and hopefully get somebody to be more active, because what we're learning with the research that's coming out nowadays is that just resting is not going to help you recover as quickly as it could if I was to get you from this place of pain to start doing ankle movements and to start even walking on it again.
Wait, I want to pause you there, because that, I don't want you to just brush by that, because that is almost like countercultural to what people are still believing. I mean, I grew up believing that, rest, ice it, whatever, but just don't move on it. Give it 6 to 8 weeks, whatever it is, and just let it do its thing. Mm-hmm. But what you are saying is that, yes, we're still going to be smart about it, but restoring motion and increasing blood flow and making sure we're moving it throughout its proper end range or whatever it's doing, that's actually going to help more than simply resting.
Yes. Yeah. So rest in that first 24-hour window is pretty realistic.
And we're talking about acute injuries. We're not talking like we have a long-term chronic, like, I don't know, autoimmune disorder. That's something different. But we're talking about like
musculoskeletal stuff.
Musculoskeletal, sprain an ankle, break a wrist, something like that.
Yep, exactly. It's that price idea, pressure, rest, ice, compression, elevation.
Yes.
All that stuff still stands, but people are doing that at 1 and 2 and 3, 4 weeks out. That no longer are we in that same phase. Things change as soon as you get injured. The healing has started, which is amazing. And so if we can get that those tissues moving again, even though there is injury, it's going to help the new scar tissue and muscle fibers that are coming back together and things like that to align in the way that the tendon is running. If it's if you have a strain of I don't know, one of your fibularis muscles or something like that, which is common in a inversion ankle sprain. The idea, though, is that if I have pain, I can't put any pressure on. I can't put any weight on this, all that stuff. And so as a provider myself, I would come in there and I would do soft tissue work. I'd do acupuncture or needling of some sort, and encourage them, hey, this is the protocol for your icing that you're doing, and then for your hot and cold, going back and forth between those things. And then getting them moving and back into activity.
Interesting.
In a shorter time frame than if they were to just do the traditional approach.
So help me connect the dots here, because what I'm hearing is that let's just continue on the sprained ankle route. I sprained my ankle. I come see you, where the end goal is for me not to have a sprained ankle anymore, right? Is to reduce the pain, is to restore motion, is to basically restore functionality, right? But I guess in my mind is almost thinking, okay, I'm going to go to the chiropractor, I'm going to go to the PT, I'm going to go to the doctor. They're going to help me in that 15, 30, 60-minute window there, and then I don't have to do anything outside of that or after that. But what you were saying is that, no, all of those treatment protocols that you're going to do are still helpful, but actually what you're doing outside of the walls of the clinic are almost just as helpful as far as your activity levels, how much you are doing the pressure ice and all ice compression, elevation, all that stuff.
Yes.
How do those dots connect as far as what you do in the clinic and what do you do outside of the clinic to help restore functionality?
Yeah. If anything, the passive approach to care needs to be just entirely deleted. So this idea that I go to the chiropractor or PT, whoever, and that they're going to give me everything that I need in my 20-minute, 30-minute, 60-minute session.
Right.
That's just that's not how it works.
It's not practical either.
That's not practical.
Right.
You have to embrace your own health. And so if I can help you believe that in the short time frame that I get with you, then the chance of you succeeding in the future and overcoming whatever the injury is or whatever it is exponentially higher if you can take your own health into your own hands.
Yes.
But my one goal with you would be to catalyze that and to get you to a point where you say, you have that aha, the light bulb turns on. All right, this is in my own hands.
Yeah.
And, I can give you some sort of reassurance that it's not worse than just, a grade 2 sprain or something, and help you not get you anxious or nervous about the future.
Right.
That reassurance is really important, but really helping you to believe that, I can do this, and this is it. I know I have all the tools that I need at home,
right,
within myself, whatever, to be back into doing the things that I love. Because that's the important part, is getting people back to doing the things that they love.
Yes.
Because then we're embracing the whole picture again, right? The psychological, sociological determinants of their own health.
So, I don't know if this is even correct thinking, but in my mind, I almost think that, let's say I have a grade 2 sprained ankle. I come see Dr. Werth, and that, you were going to give me the tools and the direction and maybe the frequency of I'm going to come see you for the next 4 weeks, once a week, and you're going to check the status, do whatever acupuncture, whatever treatment protocols you do. But then you are also giving me homework to make sure that I am doing what I can to restore functionality back to that pain site, not as you're leaving me out to dry and I'm doing it all myself. You're almost like the guide, the director, telling me what to do, the coach. But there needs to be some sort of ownership in what, because that's I see this parallel in many different areas, not just from a doctor standpoint, a clinical standpoint, is that even in the gym when I'm coaching people, they think that the 60 minutes that they spend in a group workout class is going to get them the beach body in 4 months, where I'm like, no. The other 1,380 minutes of the day the 60 minutes do not outweigh those 1,380 minutes. That we need to restore movement into our day and then optimize our workouts, because it's a both and. It's not an either or. It's also when it comes to our spiritual practices and our spiritual beliefs. I mean, we're both men of faith, that many people, we have both volunteered and I've worked in both youth ministry with middle school and high school, that many people will drop their students off and think that, oh, hey, I'm dropping them off at church, that as long as they listen to a message and sit in a small group, that's their weekly dose of spirituality that they need, that in reality that should be supplementing what they're already doing either at home or by themselves, that's not the only thing, because we're relying on other people to almost do it for us rather than having ownership on our spiritual health, our relational health, our physical health, all those things that we need to not only be consistent, but be like, hey, I'm in the driver's seat of the direction that I want to go, whether it comes to physical health, relational health, spiritual health, mental health, and that, I'm going to seek wise counsel. I'm going to seek professional care. I'm going to seek all these things, but still realize that I can't control anyone else but myself, and I have the most potential to help me in the direction I want to go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. If I can sum that up, it sounds like health as a lifestyle, and going out and just receiving something passively is not going to do the trick, whether it be going and attending a class or going, for some health care of some sort. But really, when you embrace it as your own and you become it, then you open up so many more doors to being healthy.
So, Luke, I want to continue down this vein, but take a quick right turn. And one of the threads in our conversation is that health is more than physical. That's just a personal passion of mine, that it's not just about the musculoskeletal system. There's a biopsychosocial theory of health, that there's a psychological component, a social component, an emotional component, all these different things. When it comes to just living a healthy lifestyle, I call it a truly healthy lifestyle. What are some of those big pillars that you would really preach and push, as far as, for example, I know one that we'd both agree on, sleep.
Yeah.
We need to consistently sleep, and we can get into the intricacies and the benefits of sleep. What are some other just big pillar health principles that you would push for anybody to live a truly healthy life?
Yeah. So how many do I have to limit it to?
Let's say keep it under 30.
Sure. Yeah, right. Man, it's...
Or here, if you want to think about it this way, what about the things for you personally that have paid
Okay.
dividends in your life?
Yeah. It's...
And we can start with sleep.
Yes, let's start with sleep. Sleep is, especially in the world of pain that I find myself in, sleep and pain are some of the most, if not the most, directly correlated directly related things in a setting and what I could offer somebody. Because if someone comes in with pain and they say they're only getting 4 hours of sleep a night, there's probably not much that I'm going to offer them. I'm going to say, hey, go home and just sleep more.
Yes.
Why are you here for this hour when you could be at home sleeping?
That will do more than anything I can do for you, you know?
Totally. And then the second thing is once you are awake, are you a zombie behind a desk all day, or are you out and active and taking phone calls while you're walking around a track, or taking phone calls when you're walking around the house or something, just on your feet? If not on your feet, then are you using, I don't know, like a sit to stand desk, or even one of those cool walking desks that I don't know what the price tag is on those, but
Right.
I had a friend who told me they had a little treadmill thing, basically, where
Yeah.
underneath their feet while they worked. I was like, what in the world?
That's awesome.
The technology out there is really cool. But if you can find yourself sleeping well, moving regularly, eating whole, clean, colorful foods, and I'm not 100% sure on the whole colorful part, but that's a good rule of thumb when you look at your plate. Is it colorful or is it dull?
Yeah,
you know,
great point.
Generally speaking, means that you're eating more healthy foods, because what gives things a vibrant color, if it's not synthetic, are natural good chemicals that we should be putting inside of our body. And then once we get past sleep, exercise, and nutrition, it's do you have peace in your life, peace with your relationships with other people,
That's
and
good.
peace with God?
That's good.
Because if you have those things, then you'll find yourself finding direction and purpose and clarity and a sense of rest that is different than sleep rest. And so, yeah, peace. But that to me is where basically my scope of practice comes to an end, and I get to hook people up with the right folks and say, hey, you know what, like, you're the type that I'm going to refer to this pastor friend of mine, or this life coach friend of mine, or in some cases a psychologist, because they do need somebody who has a little bit more structured of an approach to delve into what's going on in the mind. But that should be a warm handoff, not just something where I say, go find a psychologist.
Right.
But I say, hey, I have this guy's name or girl's name and
Right.
phone number, and here you are.
Right.
But I think, okay, so if I could then boil it down to 4 things. Once we have sleep, exercise, and proper nutrition, after that is just peace in our relationships.
Yeah.
And then everything else will seem to fall into place after that. Because it's natural. That's the way that we were designed.
What are some practical ways you pursue peace in your life?
Yeah. Going back to your question, what do I do? I have the most peace in my life when I've actually taken time to invest in my relationships with people, and God. Taking that time to do what in the Christian world we call our devotional time. That's just a time where we are showing God, and not just showing, but we are being with God in a devoted, set apart time. And that to me has been the most life-changing thing that I've ever done. And typically that's in the morning with a cup of coffee or something. Spending time either in prayer, reading scripture, or both has been essential to everything that I do and who I am. And all the other relationships have more peace because I have more peace with God, which is an amazing thing. But then it looks like going on dates with my wife, and spending time not rushing out of the house, but getting down on the floor now with my baby and smiling at her in the morning when she's not crying or needs milk that I can't offer her. But when I have those things, even the most tedious of work seems meaningful because other things in my life aren't falling apart. And when things are together, it makes so much more sense, and it gives you a lot more purpose and clarity on where things are going. And on top of it too, that's going back to that time with God. It helps me trust him when I don't know what's going on, or I don't understand why I feel the way that I feel, or why my wife and I can't agree on, X, Y, or Z.
Right. So if I could chirp in and make an assumption that you could correct me on if I'm wrong.
Chirp.
But if I were to sum up what you just said, it would be that you have a ruthless pursuit to keep the most important things the most important things.
Oh, absolutely.
That I think that once we understand what our main priorities are, I say it's my priorities and my people. That when I understand, who is going to get the most relational energy from me and what is going to get the most, fruitful energy from me as far as work and tasks and to-dos, whether it's home or personal, professional, because the thing that I feel the most overwhelmed and stressed about is when I feel like I'm spread too thin, I'm overwhelmed, overworked, overcommitted by doing a bunch of little things that don't really need to be eating my attention and time, and now I feel like I don't have enough time to get done the things I actually need to get done, rather than making sure the most important things are the most important things. They are getting my best time, energy, and attention, whether it's your time in your devotionals in the morning, whether it's your date night with your wife, whether it's your rehab that you're going to do with your sprained ankle, whether that's 7 to 9 hours of sleep, making sure those, like that analogy, like the big rocks are in the bucket first, and then you can put the small little stones, and then you can filter the sand around, and that analogy.
And then water after the sand.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but
it keeps going.
If someone doesn't know that analogy, basically, if your life is a big bucket, you're going to put the biggest rocks, like 3 to 5 rocks in that bucket, because that's what goes first. Those are your people and your priorities. Then you can kind of fill in that bucket with smaller little stones and pebbles that are less important but still important. And then all the other little stuff is like sand that you can filter in all the other areas that you can fill up your bucket. But if you do it the opposite way and fill the bucket in half with sand and then put some pebbles in and then put some big rocks in, your bucket is not going to be able to withstand all of that because the priorities are not properly placed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Luke, do you have any other thoughts to that, or because I have another question for you before we kind of close things?
No, priorities. I mean, that's what a lot of our health is gonna be dictated by, is what things are we putting first. So I couldn't agree more with the things that you said. No, I'm good.
I used to have my phone background. I changed it, but it said, a reminder said, "Are the most important things the most important things?" And I'm not perfect in any means, but that's something I definitely try to strive towards as well. Okay, last question before we kind of close things and wrap it up is, I want you to just provide some clarity and help us in just the entire field of chiropractic, because I think when someone hears, oh, he's a chiropractor, I think there could be 27 different assumptions on what you do, how you treat people, whether it's a hooey-fooey person back in some hippie land that's trying to steal your money and just snap, crackle, pop, or if it's more of this holistic approach and he's going to give you all these X, Y, and Z vitamins, or it's just hey, I'm just going to restore function. I think the field of chiropractic, I grew up seeing a chiropractor, and I am such a big fan. I've met people that are no, I never see a chiropractor, never seen one, and I'm kind of scared of one. There's a lot of different assumptions and expectations, fears, just ideas about chiropractors and chiropractic. Clear up some of those misconceptions and myths and tell us just what it is in your sense.
Yeah. So there are, in this, actually, it's not just chiropractic, but chiropractic is kind of like the redheaded stepchild of medicine. And some chiropractors would be upset if I said that we were included in medicine. There's so many different types of philosophies and techniques and approaches and stuff in chiropractic, but also those things exist in the physical therapy world, and they exist in the medical, more medicalized settings and stuff. But typically speaking, it's the rapport that chiropractors have that it's whoa, I don't know what your chiropractor does, but my chiropractor does this.
Yes.
And there's room to have differences and all, but there's also chiropractors out there that were taught things in a certain day and age that was the best thing, and because chiropractic is still evolving and still maturing and all this stuff, we still see practices that are not evidence-based, and although that still prevails, there's way more opportunities and options now for both students and for continuing education, for providers who are learning things that are changing conservative healthcare and helping people to avoid surgeries and unnecessary medical procedures and things that were the standard of care, especially in a musculoskeletal care sense. And that's a really exciting place to be. But probably what's important is if you go and have a consultation with a chiropractor, is asking them, hey, what kind of stuff are you looking at when you're looking at me? And if you haven't heard anything from this conversation, is this person looking at the whole picture?
Yes.
And if their answer to you is, well, how you move through my movement screen, then you have to consider, is that the approach that I want?
Yeah.
Or if they say, this bone's moved out of place and I'm going to push it back into place, that's a more historical belief, and it's not modernized. It's not evidence-based anymore.
That's good.
I would steer clear of that as well. But there's room, and I think there's people who are doing cool things that aren't actually scientifically backed yet, and that would just mean it's more experimental. And if somebody's able to say that to you and say, hey, we haven't gotten this randomized controlled clinical trial yet, with then systematic reviews and meta-analyses after that to really make this a concrete, more factual thing, then if somebody can say that in humility and say, but I then have seen in my clinic this happen and this happen and this happen, then you might be open to it. And so my approach is to give them the benefit of the doubt, and if it doesn't fit you, then move on.
Yeah.
And just have no hard feelings about it.
Yeah.
But for some people, they love just hearing, quote unquote, their bones crack, and really what that is it's gas moving in and out of a joint.
Right.
And that is really therapeutic for them.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't ever want to take that away from somebody, because what they expect and what they perceive as their benefit in therapy is exceedingly more important than how many words I can throw at them about, other things that they could be doing.
Sure.
Although I would be in there chirping in their ears saying, hey, but you need to move more and sleep better and all this stuff.
I hate to say it, but I'm not equating it, but it almost kind of dips its toes in more of a placebo effect of like, hey, you're going to crack my back and I'm going to feel better. But the belief behind I am better now that your mind is now influencing over your body is almost just as impactful as the treatment itself, because the belief behind it, hey, I'm better now. You now are not carrying the limiter of my back is out of whack, I'm experiencing pain, I need to see a clinician. Where, I mean, I could go into the science behind.
I was about to say we can go into the weeds.
Yeah, into the weeds there, but we'll keep it high level. That just believing that if I need my back cracked and my back is now cracked and I believe that I am better off, your mind is probably influencing your physiology more than that actual back crack. And it's that
totally
belief behind it, actually.
Yeah.
Which is the essence of a placebo.
Yeah.
Right? You do a controlled test of, let's give them the actual drug, let's give them a placebo. They both believe it. And if there's no change between the actual drug and the placebo, then it's not a legit test, because the mind is such a powerful thing that if it's going to reduce pain by just believing that it's going to reduce pain, that many clinical trials have done, think about that.
That's amazing.
That if you can just tell yourself, not just, oh, yeah, I'm going to believe that there's no pain, but actually think, oh, I'm taking a drug and it's going to make me better, where at your core, it makes you better. That is a phenomenal thing. Yeah. Which I'm kind of getting in the weeds now a little bit.
Yeah,
but
it's,
you know what I'm saying.
I am. And that just means that, hey, the placebo is not bad.
Yeah.
If it has bad intentions behind it, yes, it could be.
Yes.
But if you are actually providing somebody, hope and a less or more pain-free state, more functionality, less of a detractor from their life, the pain being the main detractor, then you're doing something amazing for them. But at the same time, there's been trials out there that they call them open label, that they literally say, this is a sugar pill. And people then take that, and something about the ritual of going to see a doctor who's wearing a white coat and taking a pill and that kind of stuff. People, even in that open label type of scenario, they're actually still benefiting, which to me, that shows how down the line I could go to somebody and say, hey, that whole time it was actually you healing you.
Yeah.
And that could be a key thing for them to see, hey, in this future, this future that looked dim is actually brighter because my body and this body that God gave me is designed to heal itself.
Yes.
And that's amazing.
I know. When you actually look at, I've through college went through anatomy and biology and all the things. And when you actually look at the intricacies of what your body can do, I don't even think that we're scratching the surface of it now because of how beautifully complex and intricate, but yet how simple our demands and our responsibilities are to take care of it. As far as if we sleep well, eat clean, move often, decrease our stress, pursue peace, be connected relationally, we don't have to worry about every single thing in our body going well. That it'll take care of itself, which is
it's a self-regulating organism.
It's a miracle. It's insane, but that's
awesome.
why I pursue this field, because I think the human body is the greatest thing on planet Earth.
Yeah, and it's worth worshiping God because of.
I love that. I love that. I agree.
That's
All right,
awesome.
Luke.
All right.
This conversation has been very good, very fun. I appreciate your wisdom. I have some last-minute fun, quick hitters. Do you have any other last-minute things to say before we kind of wrap up?
I think we're good.
You're like, I'm ready to be done, Alex. Let's be done.
No. I could talk for a long time.
Luke, what was your first job you've ever had?
And
how old were you?
Currently? No, I'm kidding. I was probably like 14. It was like my first like more official thing. I would always do like informal stuff for like my dad or different family members and all. But official, I did landscaping for a coroner.
Oh wow!
Literally a guy that went and figured out why people died and stuff like that. He was weird. He was a quirky guy, but he paid me well, and I was 14 and felt like $10 an hour was it.
Yep, exactly. What is a phobia or aversion that you have?
Oh, interesting.
Mine is sharks.
Well, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, that's
a phobia.
Claustrophobia.
Honestly, it's bees.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
I didn't know that.
When a bee is flying around, I get like kind of frantic.
Yeah.
I don't know. As a kid, I actually used to dream that bees would fly around my head at night.
Oh my gosh.
Like it sent me running terrified into my parents' room saying there's a bee in the room, all this, scary stuff. Yeah.
That is interesting. I did not know that. 8 years into friendship and
still
learn
learning
stuff every day.
That's right.
Okay. Let's say, well, you're in the process of a life transition and you're moving and all this stuff because you just graduated. But let's say that all of your possessions are in your home, but it's burning down. Okay, but your wife and kid are safe. Let's say everything is safe.
Okay.
Everyone is safe, but you have one more opportunity to run back in and grab just one tangible thing. What's that one thing you're going to grab?
Oh, man. What's that one thing?
Is it your Lululemon shirt that you have on?
It might be.
Is it your safe with your social security number in it? Is it your Cinnamon Toast Crunch box that you just finished? What is that one thing you're going to get?
That's tough. That one thing, I don't want to be cliche, but it's my Bible, I think, dude.
There it is.
Yeah. My parents got me a Bible when I graduated college, and it was just this super, super nice Bible, and I've just been putting all these notes in and all this stuff, and it just means so personal. Much now. I know.
What is the best 3+ movie series ever?
Movie series or movie universe? Those things exist now.
Oh, that's true.
I'd say Marvel.
You think Marvel is better than Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or something like that?
Oh, I do. There's just so much going on, and I appreciate the complexity so much.
I counted all the Marvel movies on Disney Plus because we have that.
Yeah. There
are 27 as of right now.
Whoa.
In the storyline.
They're probably going to double that in our lifetime because they got so much coming down the line.
Yes.
It's crazy.
All right, last question. What is your YouTube spiral? You're on YouTube, and this automatic video comes up, and all of a sudden, 2 hours later, you're like, how did I spend 2 hours watching magic shows?
Dude, that's crazy. Oh, man.
What is your YouTube spiral that you can just go and just be like, okay, I'm mindlessly just going to watch these videos?
Yes. So it's my most recent one, because I think things change with seasons and all, but the most recent one, and it was my wife and I, it's just like those short clips that say, like, try not to laugh or something like that, or like hillbillies, with fireworks. And I can't stop clicking on them.
So it's basically dumb fun.
Oh
like
my gosh.
Pointless,
so stupid,
funny videos.
Yes, and every so often there's something like wildly inappropriate in it, but 95%, 98% of them, I'm like crying laughing.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, and I can't stop, and my wife has to close the laptop or just turn off the TV or something, so I stop. So I'm just like, wait, one more. And then it counts down for you, which isn't,
Exactly.
It doesn't give you any chance. If you sit there long enough, it's like, oh, the next one played.
Yep. That's hilarious. I love that. Well, Luke, this has been a very fun conversation.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for giving me a snapshot into your brain.
Yeah.
I appreciate this. We will, who knows? We'll probably have another episode down the road,
Who knows?
Lord willing, and we'll just kind of rock and roll from there. But until then, we wish you the best. We thank you for this conversation, and we'll maybe see you in another episode.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Dr. Werth.